Hello everyone, my name is Blaster Boy, and welcome to the first episode of Teamfight Review. The goal of this series is to give you an in-depth look at teamfights that have happened in previous Learning 5 show matches and expand the base of knowledge that you have about the flow of a game. Now with that in mind, the teamfight that we're going to be looking at is from game number 2 from the staff show match between Team Jump and Team Silth. It happened around 43 minutes into the game if you'd like to look it up on the VOD and watch it at full speed on your own. A link with a timestamp will be provided in the description. Now before we get into the fight itself, I want to set the stage a little bit more. Team Silth boasts a 10,000 gold lead, 9 turret lead, and sole possession of every neutral objective that's appeared on the map. They're in the perfect position to close out this game whenever they really feel like, but they've not been able to win a team fight and get onto the Nexus in the last 20 minutes. Some of the players to look out for in this fight are Spoonit, Silth, Jump, and Revelize. Spoonit and Silth both had great early lane performances. Spoonit has fallen off a little bit by mispositioning in a few of the fights in the past and costing his team quite a lot of damage, but Silth has pretty consistently been able to deliver in these fights with his damage and his tankiness. It's only been recently that Silth has fallen in some of the team fights, so he's been consistently delivering all throughout the game. Jump, on the other hand, has had a very rough time, with Silth taking the mid Alawi, as I just touched on a moment ago. Jump was bullied in and out of the lane the entire game and is currently sitting at 0-15. However, he is able to find ways to be relevant in some of these fights, and I think this fight is a very good example of that. On a more positive note for Team Jump, Revelize has been delivering in the teamfights for the last 20 minutes. Revelize's performance, along with Spoon consistently mispositioning in these fights, has been one of the reasons that Team Jump has been able to hold on for so long. And while this isn't a major theme of the game, this is just something I want to commend Team Jump for, is their Zizzarat portals that they've placed at the Nexus have allowed them to hold 2 lanes at once with Zizzarat minions and prevent the minions from flooding in onto their Nexus while they deal with Team Silth elsewhere. There's effectively no way to deal with this aside from being able to win a fight and push all the way through to the Nexus, but in that case, you're just going to end the game anyway. So this is a very, very smart strategy from Team Jump, and I do really want to give them commendation for it. Now with all that said, let's get into this fight. In the seconds before the fight, we see Revelize getting caught out by Silth with a Test of Spirit. By slowly killing the clone and never dealing a direct point of damage to Revelize, Silth is able to chunk him down to half health in a matter of seconds. I think this is a good illustration of just how safely Revelize has had to play in the last few fights in order to have as big of an impact as he has. With Revelize being forced to Fountain and Jump being in mid, all this does is it forces a 4v3 in the favor of Team Silth, since they have Noxian Knights top. However, everyone is converging around this big point, and Noxian Knights will technically arrive in time to be relevant to the fight, but won't be part of the major team fight at large. Taking advantage of the 4v3, Team Silth pushes all the way up to the inhibitor and eventually does take it down. And just as Team Silth takes down the inhibitor, Salty Reese goes in for an engage. However, this does not go well for Salty Reese, as Team Silth is simply not able to follow up in time, and he's being attacked by 5 people. Just as he's on the retreat, Silth decides to jump in, and Spoonit also dives in as well, and they all end up lining up for a huge crescendo from Fekes. This is one example of Spoon's mispositioning in the fights. This does not cost him his life in the end, however, this does cost his team a few vital seconds of DPS that could have been used to get a kill. Thanks to this fantastic crescendo on 3 different members, Team Jump is able to get a decent amount of damage down onto Salty Reese, eventually forcing him out of the fight entirely, and also weave a bit of damage onto Silth as well as he pushes forward. We see Continue to be flanking all the way around the left side to land a good hook on Fekes as Silth walks up the middle. However, both of these things are countered by a fantastic Emperor's Divide from Jump. Just as the Emperor's Divide is casted, Companion to Be is closing the distance on the hook that is cancelled by the knockback, and Silth begins channeling his ultimate. However, since Silth can't be disabled over the cast time of his ultimate, he's simply pushed back. The tentacles do still spawn, and existing tentacles are still made invulnerable. What this does do to Silth, however, is it ends up canceling his W. If you don't know, Alawi's W is an empowered auto attack that makes her jump to the target within a certain range and calls on her tentacles to be hitting in that area. Effectively negating the possibility of Silth's tentacles doing anything in this fight ends up being a massive hit to his Alawi damage and also kills all of his sustained 100%. With all that in mind, the damage is just coming through from Team Jump this entire time, and with Team Silth not having any DPS from Spoonit being pushed back, and Silth constantly being locked down by the AMO in the front line as well, with Companion to Be and Silth falling in the front lines completely separated from the rest of their team, this fight is effectively over. Noctane Knight shows up just in time to get a kick off, but that simply just zones the ammo back and slows him down by a few seconds. So this fight was really made by a combination of fantastic positioning and some overstepping from Team Sylph. The overstep from Salty Reese to kick that entire fight off ended up prompting the rest of Team Sylph to move in when they were not able. Sylph deciding to tunnel vision on that engage ended up costing him his own life as well as Companion to Be's in the follow-up, and eventually Spoon's as well, leading Team Jump to hold for about 6 more minutes in total after winning another fight, but eventually losing it at 50 minutes with Team Sylph getting the victory.